Hello, Taylor Elwood, your mad scientist and magical experimenter at magicalexperiments.com. Recently on Facebook, I posted a message where I said, essentially what I said was, I am not interested in getting into conversations where what the person's doing is just critiquing a magical system. Not really even critiquing, they're just talking about a magical system and the problems they have with it. And the reason I said that really was because I find that in the magical community and occultism, so often what ends up happening is people go round and round and round about things that really aren't all that important in the grand scheme of things when it comes to magic. Now, for myself, I'm interested in experimentation. I'm interested in seeing what I can do and discovering what my limits are, and then discovering how to bypass those limits and do other nifty things. And a huge part of my experimentation really is getting my questions answered, and my answers, getting new questions for my answers. Why I'm sharing this with you is because I think it's really important to look at why you're in magic in the first place. Why are you practicing this? What is it you're trying to do? And if your reason is, well, hey, I wanna empower myself, hey, great. We've all been there at one time or another. In fact, that's usually the reason for people first start out, is they want a sense of power, and magic's one of the ways to go about getting that sense of power in their lives. But I think it's really important to examine what it is we want to bring to the conversation, what it is we want to bring really to the overall practice. For me, what excites me is when people share something that they're working on. They share what they're experimenting on, what they're trying to do, sharing what challenges they have. I don't care about critiquing some type of system because it just doesn't serve a good purpose. It doesn't really help. I could talk smack about chaos magic or ceremonial magic or neo-shamanism or any of those other things. Don't get me wrong, there can be times where it's worthwhile to point something out. Like if we say, well, neo-shamanism, we should really be aware that there's potentially the issue of cultural appropriation. Okay, that's a good critique. That's a useful critique. It helps us to look at our practice more carefully. But if I'm going to go and say, well, here are the reasons I don't like chaos magic, really, what am I doing? Um, you know, I'm really just kind of sharing my perspective, but it's not really contributing to the conversation in a good way. It's not helping when it comes to, um, because what I'm doing is I'm talking about something that I may or may not even have practiced. And honestly, sometimes when people critique a system, I question whether they've really done anything in it, because chances are they probably haven't. Or if they have done something, you know, they haven't talked about that thing they did and what issues they had. They just critique the entire system and say, well, it's the system that's the problem. Well, maybe the problem is you and how you showed up. Where am I really going with this is that I think it's more important really to look at the kinds of conversations we want to have about magic, and really the kind of work that we want to do. Where do we really want to take magic as a discipline and as a practice? Where do we want to take the various systems that are available to us, or the ones that we could create? Where do we want to take them? I know for myself that I want to continue to experiment and challenge and test things and see what happens all the way up until my dying day. You know, I wanna see what I can do to innovate and change and evolve magic. And at the same time, I also want to respect where it's come from and make sure that people know that information, because you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. Um, so what I would really urge all of you to do who are watching this video is really just take a look at why you're practicing magic. What's really important to you? What are you doing to contribute and share? What are you doing to help people learn? And folks, I also want to recommend one other thing, and it's this. If you're sharing stuff, don't put it all behind a pay gate. What I mean is this. I charge for I charge for some classes. I do. I have no problem with it, and I think it's totally appropriate. But I also share a lot of content on my website, and the content for the most part is focused pretty much on it's practical information. It's how you can do stuff. It's what I'm working on. It's things along those lines. So what I would really like to recommend is that make some of that information available to people regardless of whether they can or can't pay you. It's not all about money. Um, but at the same time, if you're someone like me and this is part of how you make your living, make sure that you also know what the appropriate distinction is. I don't think there's anything wrong with charging for your services. That's perfectly reasonable. Just know when to give something away, because it's worthwhile to share with people just what you're working on, or what stands out to you about something that you've read and tried, or something along those lines. It's a good idea. Really, I think that if we continue to look at the overall quality of the conversation, if we look at what it is that we're contributing magically to the world around us, and contributing to the disciplines that we're involved in, what we'll discover is that all of us can take magic into some new and exciting directions. And we can also take some of the paths that are already there and go further down them than other people already have. Let's do that. Let's focus on that instead of playing ego games where we're just trying to critique a system of magic and not really providing much in the way of substantive commentary, because all we're really trying to do is get a bunch of yeses and perhaps a few people riled up because of what we think we do or don't know about a given system of magic. Alright, have a comment about what I've shared, feel free to leave it below, and if you haven't subscribed, please click on the T. Thanks so much and have a wonderful weekend.